Hey guys, welcome to my latest video. Hi peeps. I want to go over DraftKings ReignMakers week 4 fairly briefly. I did finish third in a big tourney, which is cool. Probably should have gotten second, but that's the way it goes in DFS type things sometimes. I'll go over what lineups actually won contests, what the thresholds were, and I'll go over some my recent buys and sells just for interest's sake. So week 4, here were the lineups that won the core contest, which are the biggest contests. 171 points to win the core fiat. The rare 150, look at that gap. The elite that wins $100,000, 142. The legendary fiat 146. And the Rainmaker Alpha 126. So as you can see, they tend to go down in price as they usually do. Less competition as you go to the higher levels, less cards available. One thing to remember with this is the dispersion of cards means that if you look at the percentage held, there is no overwhelming chalk in terms of like 25% of people owning Hawkinson yesterday, for example, or Goff, that type of thing. Only 4 or 5% general on the lower levels that I've seen for any given player. That's what really gives a chance to us all. And again, this is another one of those kind of weeks where it wasn't super chalky in terms of just the top big name players coming in. Now the Goff Hawkinson, that game was projected very high along with Seattle. Combined with Seattle, there was one of the 3 highest games. And all of Goff's weapons were out, so Hawkinson seemed like an obvious play there, as well as Jamal Williams. And then in the same game, Geno Smith's been putting up good numbers this year, and with Lockett or Metcalf, that looked like a good one as well. So you can see they all had a superstar: Eckler, Lamb, McCaffrey. These didn't. So here you only need 4 elite and 1 rare, but the rare can't be a superstar. Here you need 2 legend and 3 elite, I believe. And here you need 2 Rainmaker and 3 legend. So you can see the totals there and what they won. Not sure why I had that in there. But really you needed Goff, Hawkinson, or Smith, Hawkinson in the Smith Lockett type thing in the regular fiat tournaments this week to do good. But you can see there is a variety here of things that won. They had both they had the 3-way and that. All right, let's move on to this one. So then they introduced the deep lineups this week. And those are for the Thursday to Sunday games, and they're doing those again. And I mentioned last week that those looked like a good one to enter because there weren't many entries. We'll see if that continues this week, but those were a good one to enter because they were easier to win. Because you have to remember, people are putting their cards into Thursday showdowns. So that would have then required them to have 2 of the Bengals and 2 of the Miami players to put them in, or they had to make a decision on which one they were going to go with. So not that many people had the Bengals and the Dolphins. So the core deep was 230 points for 2,000. The rare deep was 200 points, won 10,000. The elite deep 200 points, won 40,000. So those are about the same and quite a bit lower here. Goff, Fournette, Josh Jacobs, Kupp, Metcalf, Hawkinson, Tucker, the Baltimore kicker, Green Bay defense, and Kelsey won that. Here, very different lineup in general. They did have Jacobs and Hawkinson. Those were sort of the 2 players that really went off this week. But all the rest looks different. Here again, Goff, Hawkinson, Metcalf from that game. McCaffrey ended up with a good total as well, and Debo. The thing with this is, here, I'll show it to you. Well, I'll show it to you here in a second. So here were the cutoffs to win prizes for this week. I want to look up previous weeks, but it's not bringing them up right now, the actual contest from earlier weeks. But in this particular week, for the core fiat and single entry, this is just to get the lowest prize, to get anything out of it. So either a pack or a payout. So you needed 70 points in the fiat or 50 in the single entry, which is very low. In all the rares, it was about 62, 63, including the bankroll booster and the single entry, and those pay 10 and 20 minimum, which is decent. And that gives a core pack there. On the Elite, 55 got you a payout, but it's a rare pack. The Elite single entry was 79, so that was sort of really high. Must have been a lot of good lineups in that. Not a huge contest, but the minimum payout on that's 150. But the Elite bankroll booster, this is like the strategy sometimes of deciding which contest to go into. If you have multiple lineups type thing, or even just one. So that, if you had 53.5, you got $100 back. So for the deep contest that started Thursday, which are 9 positions versus 5 regular, 81.8 cashed, at least a core pack. On the rare, it was down to 70 core pack. So 61 to get in the main contest, but with 9 players, you only needed 70. So these were good ones to be in. On the Elite, it was higher, 104, because people can add kickers, tight ends, and defenses fairly cheap when they already have Elite lineups type thing, or they can make combinations. So that might have caused increased competitiveness there, or it could just be a little bit random from this particular week, but that's pretty high. So my results for week 4, I had a bad week on the actual 5-man and the showdowns. As far as points wise, the most core I put up was 92 points with, which won me $5 with Herbert, Jacobs, Bateman, Ertz, and Gibson. No stack. And then in the rare, I put up 83, which is good. I'm wanting to get over 100 in a rare. I haven't done that yet. That was Mariota, Najee Harris, Cooks, Lockett, and Jacobs being a core. I had 3 Jacobs, which really benefited me well, and a couple Hawkinson, which I'll show you here in a second. You can see that I cashed for $25, though, even though Mariota only got 5, even though like their team, I think, won. They played well. And Najee Harris didn't do anything, but just that one alone, and the fact that it's such a low threshold, as I showed, that I'm pretty happy with that. Now, in the deep ones, I did a lot better. My core deep one of my core deep lineups came in at 215 points. I finished third, won $500 in the core main one with like 6,200 entrants, I think. But also cashed on the rare deep and the twice with 115 there, got 20, 97, got a core pack, and then another core deep at 111, that one 3. So those are about 50 plus 4 cards, but then so that made 550. So that was a great week for me. However, a little frustrating because, as I mentioned on the other video, which I may take that down, I was really stressed out at the time, but after the Thursday afternoon games, Josh Jacobs went off late in that game. Carlson was kicking field goals. Moore was getting points. So it was doing really well, and I shot up the table. I was 28 points ahead of everybody else. There were only 2 guys with any players left within, I think, 40 points. But definitely between under 28 points. So most people only had 1 or 2 roster spots left. Some may have had 3. Now the issue is with these kind of tournaments, the way this is set up, it's not salary cap. So if people do have, for example, even in the late Sunday games or the evening Sunday game or the Monday night game, if they have a spot open and they feel like they're in contention, for example, in this one, if they had a crappy KC player, they could have went and bought a Kelsey and stuck it in there before that game started, or a Cooper Kupp, but that's only if they hadn't had a superstar play, or a Mike Evans. So that's what I can tell several people did, including the guy who won the contest, because he wasn't very close, and he ended up with an Evans and a Kelsey. Now he might have already had him in his lineup, but either way, of course, he would have had to invest, probably $40 on the core level to do that. Now the thing that's really frustrating, though, I don't mind that I got bumped, because those guys, there were three of the top players had big games. Very frustrating. But what's really annoying is I finished less than a point behind this guy, and he was pretty far behind me. I think he was the one that was 28 behind. So he got all those Mike Evans plays, and meanwhile Carlson missed an extra point type of thing. And I know you got to get lucky to do these, but 1 extra point gives me the win. 1 extra catch obviously gives me the win. So the third place out of 6,200 is pretty dang good. So that was Goff paired with Hawkinson, Also had Metcalf in the same game. Remember, that was one of the 3 high-scoring games, and people don't tend to think of the crappy teams as, or those type of teams. And the other one was, what was the other one? The other one ended up fairly high, even though it didn't start that way. There were 3. Anyway, Jacobs went off. Now I've been using. I have access to one premium projection site, and they love Jacobs this week, and I couldn't really figure out why. I mean, maybe it was a good matchup, but he's never really that explosive. He's sort of a grinder, but they were right. He went off. They also love Geno Smith, and they were pretty dead on several this week. So I was pretty happy with that. That helped me out in regular DFS as well. Now Gibson, Lamb, Metcalf, Carlson. So when I picked up a kicker, he's the highest scoring kicker, and he was like $1 more maybe. And that actually sort of goes with the Jacobs kicker running back. But then the Giants defense against the Bears and DJ Moore. And the only one even to score below 10 was Gibson. But really it was that Hawkinson 42 points, Metcalf 25, Jacobs, and then Goff. So anyway, that was really nice. $500. I think I told you I only put 450 into DraftKings ReignMakers total since it started. So that puts me up quite a bit. So I'll just go over my recent sells and buys. The thing is prices are dripping down, except for things like showdowns, injuries, things like that. So they're not going to necessarily go up, although injuries happen a lot, number 1 in football. And number 2, guys outperform and things like that. And there's still 13 games left plus playoffs. If I cash another $50 a week the rest of the season, that's $650 right there. And I can sell cards along the way. But basically, I went back and looked since last Saturday, like 2 Saturdays ago, I believe. That's when I started lowering my prices to sell some more, because I was sort of, I didn't want to I haven't wanted to make any DraftKings deposits, period. And I've been doing DFS and ReignMakers. So that's caused me to sell things at times and buy really cheap ones sometimes, maybe a little too cheap. But the most recent ones, I got a Kelsey out of a prize pack, sold it for 23. These are the approximate profits. Now, I don't like selling rares because I believe you should be selling commons and buying rares and elites, if you can afford it. But I did sell a few elites, rares. I bought an Algier for $5 early on, and it sold for 35. Now Raymond that was too low of a price. That came out of a prize pack, but even so, I don't really want to sell any rares for below like $25. So that actually was one that I had listed low, and it's so much to keep track of. I'm not adjusting my prices all the time, but I usually put a price in to sell immediately after I get them. Anyway, when the injury happened, that got bought out. I should have got like 25 for that. Now the showdown game with New Orleans caused a couple of mine to sell, and that one I actually probably had that one a little too cheap. So that when it says $10 P, that came out of a momentum pack. So I think I just immediately listed it for $8, and that sold, which is somewhat fine. And the Olave sold. I had bought that. That came out of the $8 packs are the momentum ones, and I had put that in at like $12.95 or whatever, and that sold. I'm fine selling most core skill players right now for good skill players from $10 basically to 22.5. Somewhere in there, if any of them sell, like Kelsey and Andrews are expensive because tight ends are now a commodity, and they're the far and above the best. So I got a kicker out of a prize pack, and it was a core that sold for 15. And you might say, well, why did that sell? It was literally a number 1 serial number. So if somebody has that, it's really going to be really good for showdowns and everything else. Now, here were the 2 that probably I struggled with the most. Was I sold my Jackson quarterback and a Josh Allen. Of course, they're both superstars, and like other quarterbacks can do well. And I just decided it was worth it to sell. So I sold them both for 28. This one I paid 12 for on the market. This one came out of a booster pack. So those 2, would I like to have them? Yeah, but I got to live with it. Conklin, I got out of a prize pack. I put that in at $5. That sold. A CD Lamb I had got of a prize pack that sold for 18. So pretty happy with that because, like I said, 10 to 22.5 for skill players on core is pretty good right now to get. Now I sold a Jamal Williams. That is a little cheap. Of course, it's back right around there now, but I paid $7 for that. So at the beginning of the season, I was buying running backs and whatnot. I was buying rares with just a small budget first couple of weeks, and I would look for guys who were getting any playing time type of thing, or he was like the second back in line type of thing. So that was one I had a limit price in and it hit. I sold my Russell Wilson for 20. That came out of a booster pack. That actually was $40 or $50, $60 one of the first early weeks ahead of the showdown. So I should have sold it then. Sold a Kirk for 18, good player, but I had only paid 6 for it. Got a Tua out of a momentum pack, sold it for 18, and sold my 2 Pittmans, $10 out of a momentum pack, out of a booster. So most of these are good packs or lucky packs somewhat. But a few good marketplace buys like that. But the bottom line here is these cost about $88. When I'm saying that's per card, obviously, because the pack price is $50. $88, got back $315 after fees. It's about $200 profit. So I sold 16 cards and 3 of them were rare. So basically with the proceeds, which is like $280, I bought all of these for $260. They're up a little bit since then. That's counting because of prize pack ones. And the prices are going to be down. I just used what my actual card was, not the low floor. So it's going to be a little lower than this. But basically, so I sold 16 cards and bought 3 rare. Ended up with 36 cards, 11 of which are rare. Now, the whole point, though, is I basically sold the best players or my best core players, a lot of them. But this allows me, I'm getting good players, and some of them were ones that had spiked up that I sold as well. But it gives me so much more versatility. And sometimes I talk about quantity versus quality, and it's a debate. But especially considering I've been talking about wanting to move into rare tournaments, that really is a big thing. So basically that original, what was it, $80, $90 investment got me all these cards plus profit. So basically Gabbard out, this is the most recent. Oh, here's the oldest. So this is right when they put in the deep roster. I was refreshing to see like who had what the new lineups were going to be or new contests, and somehow I saw the deep one pretty quick. But first off, all the cores on here which are yellow, there isn't one that I paid more than $2 for, except for Landry right before the showdown because I had to replace a guy, and the Minnesota showdown because there were injuries in that game and I sold 2 cards. If you remember, I sold a Mark Ingram and the other one. So for selling the Mark Ingram, I got a Landry, a Minnesota defense, and a New Orleans defense, or Minnesota kicker. So anyway, on the deep roster, so like these are ones, a lot of times it's to fill in spots or, one sells or I'm building more lineups type thing. So a Robert Woods, a Chark, that could have been really good if he wasn't hurt. A Zay Jones, $8, Ertz for $2. But then I went and grabbed rare kickers and defenses when I saw the setup for the deep roster. So I got a Fairburn and Atlanta defense. That was a crappy one, but it was the cheapest. Lazard out of a prize pack, useful. Carter out of a prize pack, useful. And crappy prize pack. Minnesota defense prize pack, useful. Then I bought a booster pack because I was I had sold a few cards, and that's the one that Josh Allen came out of. So I paid 20 for that, and I sold that for 28. So that's not really, because considering the other 2 cards are crap, that's what makes me also sort of hesitant on it, but it is what it is. And that, unfortunately, the kicker that came in that is on IR. So delving into rare buys on the marketplace, I bought a Najee Harris for like 28. All these were like 30 or less. I bought a McLaurin for 25. I bought a Metcalf for 22. That one's working out really well so far. I'm still confident in these others. I bought a Connor for 27. I bought a Deontay Johnson for 30. I bought a Cooks for 28. So that one's looking pretty good so far. I'm still confident in all those, at least for being sort of steady guys as it goes along. And that's what I mean about that. So then I got another kicker, McManus, out of a prize pack, a rare. And then I bought after I was selling more cards and doing well, I'm like, well, let me get a momentum pack, see how my luck goes. So I got a Zach Wilson rare quarterback, and he actually played pretty well last week, surprisingly. Gesicki worthless, but then I got a common Andrews. So I put that into sell at like $22. I got a Drake London. I'm like, ooh, that's useful. And then I got a Bolden who actually could end up being useful. So that pack was positive EV, or positive expected value, market value, and the booster pack was as well. So 2 packs I bought, both positive. Then off the market, I got another Woods. I got a Jacksonville kicker for $1. I got a Freiermuth for $1. So tight ends, you can see I'm adding tight ends and kickers to build deep rosters and things like that. I got a Zerline for $1. I got a Carlson for $2 kicker. A Gibson came out of a prize pack. That's useful. The Landry I bought for the tournament. That's a couple dollars too high. Minnesota kicker, useful. New Orleans defense. Then I bought a Randall Cobb for $1. And then I got a Blaine Gabbert out of a pack, which is unfortunate that it was a crap quarterback. But so you can see what I'm saying. I know this sounds like I'm bragging or humble bragging. It's really not like I'm making tons of money, but I mean on the cards themselves right now, on these cards, but it's more like what I turned that initial into. So it was like $90, and I had 16 cards, 3 of which are rare. Ended up with 36 cards, 11 of which are rare, and I made like 200 profit on the first one plus what I have now here. So that's it for today. I'm gonna go over the games and the slate and whatnot as we go along here. But yeah, I had a pretty big week. Let me know if you had any big wins. I also, let's see, I finished second in a DFS showdown, but that was only $50. I'm trying to think any others that I wanted to mention. I guess that's it. There's some other stuff about regular fantasy I wanted to mention and DraftKings. But so if you want to sign up for DraftKings ReignMakers, that's my referral code, DraftKings.com/r/Rufus Jones. My Dapper username, if you want to tip me a NBA Top Shot moment or an all-day moment, is at Kentucky Wildcats. But as I mentioned, I've been selling my NFL all-day moments and put quite a bit of it, put a decent amount of what I made into ReignMakers, and thus far I'm making money in ReignMakers. So the only other project that is going to be good is the So Rare NBA. However, that's going to be, talk about chalk. The baseball one there is chalk. The NBA one is going to be chalk. So people are going to have LeBron, Curry, the 10 highest scoring guys, and they're just going to play them. I have a feeling, and they're just going to play them every week, and you're going to need those guys to have a good shot at cashing high. And those guys are going to be through the roof. So that's been the good thing about football so far is, number one, it's sort of randomized, and number two, the same guys don't dominate all the time, because the baseball one's been sort of like that too, where people will stack a whole team or multiple teams, or they'll have Mike Trout, Judge, and those other guys, and they'll just hit week after week, and it's hard to compete with them if you're not spending a lot of money. Anyway, but you can compete with them in ReignMakers. As you saw those lineups I showed you, none of those were expensive lineups that won the tournaments this week, or last week, or the first week. It's really I think the second week that there was a big chalk. But stacking has worked, whether it's 2 or 1, 2-1, or even 3-1. And in the deep games, you're looking more. It's becoming more like a regular DFS where you really want to build it out. And hopefully those will be just as easy to cash in. We'll see. It'll probably get a little less easy this week. All right, that's it. Signing out. Have a good one, guys.